right, D&D fans, you know that feeling, right? When you're starting a new campaign and you want to play something a little different, not your run-of-the-mill wizard, something with a little more spice.
Spice is good.
Well, today's deep dive is all about flavor, literally. We're diving into the Gastromancer class from Relentless 5e, a homebrew class that's anything but bland. Forget spellbooks and wands. These magic wielders use cooking implements to whip up enchantments as delectable as they are deadly.
It's a fascinating take on the whole support class archetype. Instead of lobbing fireballs, you're serving up tactical meals, buffing your allies, hindering your enemies, all with a sprinkle of magic and maybe a dash of hot sauce.
Okay, I am so here for the culinary chaos.
Yeah.
But let's back up for a second. How does one even become a master chef of the arcane arts? What are we talking about in terms of stats and mechanics?
So, like all D&D characters, Gastromancers have 6 core stats that determine their abilities. And get this, they use Wisdom as their primary spellcasting stat.
Interesting. So it's less about rote memorization of spells and more about intuition and a deep understanding of flavor profile.
Exactly. A good Gastromancer isn't just following recipes, they understand the magical properties of each ingredient. And speaking of recipes, instead of spell slots, you have a recipe book filled with, well, spells.
Hold on, I need to make sure I'm understanding this right. I can heal my party with a hearty stew. Give them a tactical advantage with a well-placed appetizer.
Precisely. You become a walking, talking buffet of boons and buffs, making you the heart and stomach of your adventuring party.
All right, you had me at walking buffet. But let's get down to brass tacks here. How did this whole culinary magic thing actually work in combat? Are we talking about straight-up damage, or is it more nuanced than that?
That's what makes this class so interesting. It's not just about brute force. Unlike a wizard who might unleash a massive fireball, the Gastromancer is all about strategy.
So more about outsmarting your opponents than overpowering them.
Absolutely. Your meals might offer crucial healing, or grant temporary flight to an ally, or even, say, give someone resistance to a particular type of damage.
So you really have to think ahead, plan your menu carefully, knowing what challenges you might face. It's like meal prepping for a dungeon crawl.
Exactly. Do you go all out with your most powerful dish, knowing you might not have it later, or do you conserve your energy, your ingredients, for when you really need them?
This is way more strategic than I initially thought. And you mentioned bending the laws of reality earlier. I'm going to need you to elaborate on that, preferably with some concrete examples of what a high-level Gastromancer can pull off.
Well, let's talk about the Godly Nachi.
Godly Nachi. That name alone is just begging for some epic tales at the gaming table. Tell me more.
Okay, picture this. For a brief but glorious minute, you gain true sight. You can see through any illusion. You have advantage on all saving throws. Nothing can touch you. And for the grand finale, you become immune to one type of damage. Your choice.
Whoa. Okay, that is some serious power right there. But all good things must come to an end, right?
Of course. You only get one serving of Godly Nochi per long rest, so timing is everything. That's what makes the Gastromancer so fun to play. You have these moments of incredible power, but they're limited, making each decision crucial.
Okay, Godly Nochi. I'm adding that to my D&D bucket list immediately. But you mentioned appetizers earlier. It sounds like there's a whole other course to this culinary class we haven't even explored.
Right. Think of your main meals as your, big spells, your showstoppers. But every good chef knows you need, those little bites in between, things to keep the palate engaged.
Okay, so how do those culinary palate cleansers translate to actual gameplay? Do I whip up a quick amuse-bouche in the middle of a dungeon?
You got it. Appetizers are all about those quick tactical advantages, those small bursts of flavor. They're not as potent as your main meals, but you can cast them as a bonus action.
Okay, got to make sure I'm following. For those of us who don't speak fluent D&D, what does bonus action mean in this context?
Basically, it means you can slip an appetizer into your turn without, sacrificing your main action. So while your fighter is busy dueling a dragon, you can toss them a courageous canapé to help them shrug off that fear effect.
Hold up. I can literally hand out magical hors d'oeuvres mid-battle. This class is amazing. Are you telling me there's a whole menu of these appetizers, each with its own little tactical benefit?
You better believe it. You might have, say, a clarity cracker to boost an ally's next saving throw, or a swift soupçon to give them a little burst of speed.
So it's like having a bag of magical tricks up your sleeve, except it's all disguised as delicious finger food. I am so on board with this.
Mhm.
But we've only just scratched the surface here. You mentioned earlier that gastromancers can choose specialties. What are we talking about? What kind of culinary paths can I choose from?
It's like choosing your cooking style. Some gastromancers are master bakers, others are all about the grill, you know? It all depends on how you want to flavor your magic.
Ooh, I like the sound of this. Lay it on me. What are some of the options?
Let's start with the Breadmancer.
Okay, already intrigued. Tell me more.
As you might have guessed, they're all about healing and nourishing, using the power of, well, bread. They're up there with clerics when it comes to healing, but with a lot more dough.
Okay, now you're just messing with me. So instead of divine intervention, they're channeling their power through perfectly proofed sourdough and crusty baguettes.
You got it. At higher levels, they can even conjure a protective bread shield, absorbing blows like a magical sourdough wall.
Now that is what I call rising to the occasion.
Yeah.
But let's say I'm less about baking and more about, setting things on fire. Does the Gastromancer class cater to those of us with a more fiery passion for cooking?
Oh, yeah. If you like playing with fire, the Grillmaster is definitely your jam. They turn up the heat on the battlefield, make life pretty uncomfortable for anyone who gets on their bad side.
Okay, you had me at playing with fire, but before we go any further, I need some details. Like, are we talking literal grills here? Am I hauling a portable barbecue pit through dungeons?
Well, Relentless 5e kind of leaves the specifics up to you. But I think it's safe to say a Grillmaster is never caught without, the tools of their trade. Let's just say they know how to handle their heat sources.
Okay, I'm already picturing some epic dungeon-themed cookouts, but it's got to be more than just grilling up some grub, right? What kind of magical mayhem can a Grillmaster unleash?
Think magical fire, right? Like
Yeah.
adding extra fire damage to an ally's attack or dishing out some serious pain with, say, their signature searing skewers.
Searing skewers.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm picturing the enemy fleeing from a volley of magically imbued kebabs. But you mentioned something about a higher level ability, something about an infernal barbecue. That sounds intense.
Intense is putting it mildly. Imagine, unleashing a wave of scorching flames, right? Engulfing your enemies in an inferno of your own making.
Okay, that's just epic.
But it gets better. This fire, it ignores resistance. So even creatures that are normally resistant to fire, they're going to feel this.
Ouch. So it's like the ultimate counter to those fire-resistant foes. I like it. But hold on, there's got to be more to it than just damage, right? You mentioned something about healing earlier. Are you telling me Grillmasters can also heal?
It's all about balance, right? Destruction and restoration. With the Infernal Barbecue, you can choose to heal an ally for half the damage dealt. So you're simultaneously this, force of fiery destruction and a beacon of hope.
That is an amazing image. I love the dynamic playstyle. But we've only got so much time, and I want to make sure we at least touch on the other specialties. What about the Flash Fryer or the Salad Sage? They sound intriguing.
The Flash Fryer, they're all about speed. They're the first ones into the fray, able to react quickly. They actually get a bonus to their initiative, so they're often acting before anyone else can blink.
So they're like the rogue of the culinary world, always one step ahead.
Exactly. And their signature ability lets them, get this, manipulate time itself, just for a moment, but still, creating these little windows of opportunity for their allies.
Okay, manipulating time. Now that is just cool. But we got to move on to the Salad Sage. They sound like the polar opposite of the fiery Grillmaster. Are we talking peaceful vibes, all about defense?
You're not wrong. They're all about harnessing nature's bounty, using herbs, roots, vegetables to protect and empower their companions.
So less about offensive spells and more about strategic support, battlefield control.
You got it. They can even, temporarily give someone the ability to walk through walls with their ethereal escargot.
Ethereal escargot. Only in D&D, am I right? But speaking of strange and wonderful things, we haven't even touched on what might be my favorite part of this whole Gastromancer thing, and that is the monster mash aspect of it all. Tell me we're about to talk about incorporating monster parts into these culinary creations.
Oh, you know it. Relentless 5e takes things to a whole other level by letting you harvest ingredients from defeated monsters to create even more potent meals.
Okay, hold on. Before we go full Hannibal Lecter here, you mentioned this homebrew emphasizes ethical sourcing.
100%. We're talking creatures, not humanoids, right? No sentient beings are harmed in the making of these magical meals. It's all ethically sourced, sustainably harvested. You know the drill.
Okay, good to know. So how does this whole monster ingredient thing actually work in the game? Do I just sprinkle some powdered dragon scale into my soup for an extra kick?
It's a little more involved than that. Each monster part, it's got its own unique effect, right? And its own difficulty level to prepare. You could try to use, say, basilisk liver, but if you mess up the preparation, it might just petrify you instead.
Whoa, high risk, high reward. I like it.
Exactly. There's a real art to it, which makes it even more fun.
It really does add a whole new layer of like resource management and role playing to the game. Suddenly I'm imagining gastromancers like bartering for exotic ingredients, experimenting with new recipes, maybe even having these like rivalries with each other over secret techniques.
Now you're getting it. That's the beauty of a class like this, right? It sparks the imagination.
It really does. And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive into the wonderful world of the Gastromancer. But this is just the appetizer, my friends. We've given you a taste. Now it's your turn to cook up some culinary chaos. What kind of Gastromancer will you create? What culinary concoctions will you unleash upon your games? Share your recipes, your dream meals, your most disastrous kitchen mishaps with us on social media. We can't wait to see what you cook up. Until next time, happy gaming.